officially here. The last piece of the puzzle from our rod making video. A 7-foot blank. Let's check her out. All right. So, a little info about this. I got a purple blank, I got an ECU decal, and my friend doesn't know this yet, but I'm actually gonna make this custom rod for my friend for his birthday. So, if you're watching this, Kendall, this rod's gonna be for you, so hopefully it turns out decent. Check up. All right, guys, so I am unwrapping the package off my rod right now. I've gotta be very careful because this is gonna be an inshore fishing rod, so it's medium power and fast action. This is an MHX blank. I got all this stuff off of Mudhole, which, I mean, it's a website where pretty much any accessory for customizing a rod is available. So I got my Fuji guides from there, I got my Fuji reel seat from there. And this is my first time ever doing this, so don't judge me too much. Look at the color of this thing. So remember, this is an ECU rod. So we got a purple blank, and there's the label on it. It's the L843, if you're curious, to go get it online. I think it's an MHX Extreme. It feels great. The blank feels like exactly how I wanted it to feel, so I'm pretty satisfied. It's a fishing rod with nothing on it. This is crazy. All right, so now that we got everything laid out on the table here, it's time to start the scary part of this process, which is actually building the rod. So I gotta be kind of careful. The epoxy only takes 15 minutes to dry. So I've never done this before, and I really can't afford to make mistakes. So yeah. So the butt cork of the rod, they drill small holes. As I put it down, it's gonna eventually stop, and the rod wouldn't do much good from if your handle was right there. So to get it to go all the way down the blank, I'm gonna need to drill into it. Online, I've seen they have these drill bits that are just pretty much sandpaper on the drill bit. I didn't buy anything like that, so I'm gonna just use a regular drill set, and there might be a reason why people don't, but we'll see. All right, guys, so to avoid any disaster, I'm gonna start with a smaller drill bit, and I'll slowly work up. I might find out why people use the specific drill bits that you can find on Mudhole. Look how close I am, look how close I am. All right, guys, so I'm finally at a moment where it will just about slide. This is the point in time. So we're at the point in time where I'm gonna start doing some epoxy. My cat is playing with, they think everything's a toy. Most people mix the epoxy. So this is the epoxy you can get from them. It's Pro Paste. You have to combine it. You don't have to be exact. You wanna do like 50-50 on this from what I've seen. And so anyways, most people spread it with a popsicle stick. I found something that kind of resembles a popsicle stick. Much of this to make this work. So I'm going to dabble it down. You want to apply the epoxy to the rod. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. This is kind of the scary part because this is the point of no return. What you want to do is you want to slide it down. You want to kind of spin all this. Is scary. This is so scary. It's actually, I'm rod building, man. You want to kind of go up and down so you can get inside that cork, and it should, and I mean, it is fitting so tight on there. It looks from other videos, it's pretty easy to wipe off. And it is, how about that? So the next step is the good old reel seat. If I can focus in on it. I went with a Fuji. Fuji has a lot of good stuff. I went with their eyes, went with their Fuji reel seat. This is very popular on most rods. One thing you'll notice about the reel seat is look how big that hole is. So what that does is there's gonna be a lot of space in between the reel seat and the blank. Unlike my handle, which I had to drill a pretty big hole. I mean, drill handle went from a hole that big to a hole like that big. This, it's gonna be very loose on the blank. So I'm gonna have to build up where it's gonna sit. So you can see all that play in there. This it doesn't look great, but I built it up a little bit so now it slides on tighter. That way it'll give the reel seat something to grab onto with that epoxy. And then after that, I've got to put my beautiful, I love this design, this foregrip on it. And just like the butt grip, I've got to drill the hole bigger to fit on here. Now that I have my holes drilled to the right size, I can go ahead and proceed with putting on the reel seat. And I'm gonna really lather this on. There's a lot of space, crazy roadblocks. Just like I did before, I wanna rotate the reel seat as I am putting it on. Just like so. You kind of want to tape your threads so that you're not getting dry epoxy and then you can't thread down your reel seat. But I've got plenty of thread here, so I'm not that worried. All right, so I'm gonna try to explain this as best I can to find the spine on your rod. Pretty much what I'm looking at is, I know you can't see it, but the spine will be wherever it comes to the top every time. And I want the spine to be behind where the reel is. So it's landing right here every time. So what I'm gonna wanna do is just, you want that to be pointing up. What I was doing is when I was putting pressure and I was spinning it, you want where the reel is going to land facing down every time. So when I would spin it and it would come back facing the downward position, that means it's in the right spot. Now I'm going to attempt to go one at a time and put my Fuji, I went with Fuji. They're just a reputable brand. So I went with Fuji, and it comes with some instructions here on the guide spacing. So that will definitely come in handy. One thing to note if you're ordering, you can order a set, but the set does not come with your top eye, the tip eye. So that's something I noticed when I was ordering. And I noticed in their picture, I was like, I don't see the tip on there. So you do have to order that separate. So just keep that in mind. So this is where the first eye will go. Just doing that to point out where the first eye goes, just to give me a visual. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tape them in place. I'm gonna tape them in place. I'll tape it around the top, probably right there. And once I get the string started and it's holding it in place, I can go ahead and cut that tape off. What I'm gonna do is do that same exact process all the way down. And if you can see, it's on there pretty straight. All right guys, it took me a while, but I have finally finished taping the eyes onto the blank. If you have a better way of doing this, comment below and let me know. This took me quite a while, especially with these little eyes. They're very hard for my big hands to hold. This is an ECU rod. See the beautiful purple and gold with the purple blank. So for our threads that wrap the eyes, we're gonna use gold and silver contrast. We'll see how it goes. Check it.
Guys, once I get it wrapped a couple of times, and that free line is tight, you can feel free to hold the line with one hand and spin the rod with your other hand, and you can just go right up the blank.
And the thread I'm using is pretty thin, so I'm not afraid to go over it more than once to fill any gaps. I don't necessarily have to keep using the scissors to get it exactly how I want it, but we will get there. All right, so I've officially finished the gold part for this eye. Now I'm gonna add little silver accents right here and right here. Very subtle. It's not gonna be that thick, but just to give it a little more flavor.
All right, folks, so once I have finished the silver lining, to cut the end of the string, you want to get another piece of string, maybe 4 or 5 inches long. You want to fold it in half, place the loop on one side of where you're going to cut, and you want to continue wrapping the last few wraps of that thread. And once you get to the end of your wrap, you're going to cut your thread you're wrapping, and you're going to put it through that loop, and then you're going to pull that loop through, and that will cinch your thread.
Alright guys, I officially have finished the wrapping of the thread on the first eye. I would say it went better than I expected. Looks pretty solid for the first time. I haven't put epoxy on it yet. I've got the rest of these eyes to do, and I'll see you after I'm finished with the eyes. Alright, looking good. Alright guys, I have finally completed the threading on all the eyes. And I promise you, it was not an overnight experience. For sure, the threading of the eyes has definitely taken the longest. It's the longest part of rod building, in my opinion, just from doing it the first time. But you can see beautiful little
silver and gold contrast with the purple blank. Before you put the epoxy on it, you want to kind of, I know it's hard to tell, but you kind of want to look down the rod and make sure all your eyes are lined up perfectly. Make some minor adjustments here and there. We're ready to put the tip on. All right guys, so the tip is officially on. All I did was epoxy the end of the blank just at the tip where the rod tip would go over. And all I did was go back and forth and try to fill the inside of that tip with epoxy. And the important part is trying to line it up with all the other eyes before letting it set. And once it's set, I'll do a minor wrap on the end of it to fit the rest of the design on the rod. And we'll be ready to do some of the final steps of the rod making. So pretty excited. Next step is putting this little hook holder, I don't know, bait holder, I don't know what it's called. It probably has the name on the package, but anyways, I'm holding it in place with very skinny and lightweight, I guess it's called masking tape. And I'm gonna incorporate some silver, gold, gold, silver. Alright guys, so I just finished threading the rest of the hook holder. Really the only thing left to do is epoxy her down. But just a look at the rod before I put epoxy on it. I mean, for my first rod ever, I feel like it has come out fairly decent. My threads on the eyes are a little thicker than I would like them to be. In the future, I'll cut down on that, but I'll probably buy some thicker thread too, but ultimately, not too shabby. One thing I noticed that I want to point out if you are to build your own custom rod is make sure, I almost made this mistake, make sure you don't do your butt cap, which is what goes right there, until the end. Because if I put this butt cap on that at the beginning, it will not fit in the rotator, in the rod rotator. This is very important because once I epoxy everything, it's got to spin continuously while it dries or the epoxy will run or bubble. So it's very important. Really love how that turned out. Looks good. The eyes look pretty solid as well all the way up the rod. So yeah, time to get on in epoxying. And to epoxy, I bought this thread finish, similar to the epoxy, the adhesive epoxy. You got to mix them together. Apparently it's you got to be very careful with the mixture. You have to be precise. Yeah, it looks like a 1-to-1 ratio. So I want to make sure I'm doing that correctly to get the best look, best finish, best function, all the above. So yeah, I'm about to get started on the epoxy, and I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like. And then hopefully by tomorrow, this rod will be ready to fish. Pretty exciting stuff. It's been a journey. This is definitely not a 3-hour process. Even if I was really, really good at this, I think it would take some time. Obviously my next one will be quicker because I'll know what to do, but definitely a cool experience. So I'll show you guys what epoxying looks like. I'm gonna just pour a spoonful of each in this. I'm gonna mix it up as well as possible. I'm gonna mix it for probably a minute or two, maybe 3 minutes. You really wanna make sure at this stage you do not mess up. We're gonna go part A first. That is exactly a spoonful. All right, that was part A. Here's part B.
All right, guys, so that's a little idea of the process of epoxying the string or the thread. And so pretty much I'm going to epoxy anywhere there's thread. And it's going to be a slow process, but it's actually kind of relaxing in a weird way. So I'm going to finish up the rest of the rod and let her dry out, and I'll show you guys the results. All right, guys, I have officially finished the rod. I'm pretty excited for how it turned out. This is the first rod I've ever even attempted to make or custom build. I've watched a couple YouTube videos. That's the extent of my knowledge on these things. And I mean, obviously I haven't seen it perform yet, but it looks good. I'd say it looks good. I wouldn't say it looks great. Wouldn't say it looks bad. Anyways, happy birthday, Kendall. Hope you enjoy it. And here's a final look of the rod. And folks, if you've ever custom built a rod, if you have any suggestions, let me know what I could have done to make this an easier process, quicker process, adjustments you see that I could have made. Comment down below, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching another episode of Common Man Brand.